The film begins with a girl named Nora, climbing the Dalen Valley in Norway with her father Tobias, to reach the top of a mountain called Troll Peak. When they get on the top, they have a conversation and discuss one tales about the origin story about the valley. Once upon a time there were 13 drunken trolls, and they turned to stone when they exposed by the light of the sunrise, until finally, whether hallucinated or real, Nora saw the silhouette of a troll's face in the valley.
Pappa, jeg tror ikke på evig lenger. La oss stå opp, solstrålen gjorde den til stein, og nå er det fjell.
Men det er motsatt. Du må tro på det for å kunne se det.
20 years later, on the Atlantic coast of the northwestern Norwegian side, Nora, who is already a well-known professor of paleontology or an expert in the field of fossils, works for 6 months to search for dinosaur fossils, which are believed to be around there. All of her team had started to give up, while Nora was still digging because she was so sure the fossil she was looking for really existed. Until finally all Nora's hard work is paid off, she actually managed to find the dinosaur fossils.
I understand that, sir. Has anyone seen our fearless dino hunt?
I don't like that look.
We've been up and down this coast for, what, 6 months?
We're so close. I can feel it. One thing my father ever taught me was to never lose faith.
In the next scene, project workers are building a railroad that passes through Mount Dovre. The local community demonstrating, because the workers are considered to destroy nature. The workers did not care about the demonstrations, and still continue blowing up the mountain. When the workers are checking into the cave, they hear a very terrible roar, and this has happened. Because the seismograph noted that there was severe shaking in the area, the Norwegian Armed Forces headquarters sent 2 fighter planes to check the mountain.
Får en melding om stor seismisk aktivitet ved Dovre.
Ber om tillatelse til å sende rekognoseringsfly til Dovrefjell.
From the airplane's height, they could clearly see a strange huge hole. Also there were several large marks in the ground that looked very much like giant footprints.
Forsvarsministeren brifer deg på veien.
Ser ut som fotspor.
Men vi trenger noe som det. Geologer, arkeologer, biologer.
The general believed that there will be a terrible threat in the future, so he ordered the troops to pick up Nora, who believed to be able to investigate the incident. Nora arriving at Oslo and met the Prime Minister's advisor named Andreas.
Nora Tidemann.
Andreas immediately took her to a room full of state officials and other experts.
Ja, dette Nora Tidemann. Hun professor I paleontologi.
They discussed the causes of the big holes and also the marks on the mountain. Some theorized that it was all due to water absorption or due to underground methane gas.
Unnskyld? Synkehull.
But Nora have a different perspective. She was sure that had to be footprints.
Det her kødd? Alle kan vel se at det fotspor, sant?
Some people in that room are laughed at Nora, until a computer expert named Sigrid showed a very gruesome video, which was successfully hacked from the cell phone of one of the protesters.
Vi har noe, men jeg klarte å finne en bakdør.
There was a very clear roar, followed by the destruction of the train tunnel, and stones scattered into the protester. Everyone in the room was confused about what was really going on. Then Nora asks for the video to be played again, and when the video is paused, a giant figure is seen attacking the protesters. Everyone in that room still unsure about the giant figure in the video. According to Nora, the creature is about 40 to 50 meters tall. The largest primate she knows has a maximum height of only 4 meters.
Går det an å gå tilbake litt? Stopp!
King Kong.
Det her ser jo ut til å være rundt 40-50 meter.
Elsewhere, a pair of grandparents who were enjoying hot tea suddenly heard a very big footsteps, which made ripples in their teacup. Because the footsteps sounded closer, the grandfather took his wife to hide in the basement. When all the chaos had stopped and they came back upstairs, they were very surprised to find that part of their house was gone.
Jeg skjønner ikke hva som gærent med en solo.
After receiving a report about a strange incident at that grandparents' location, Nora was ordered to become a scientific advisor. Using a helicopter, Nora and Andreas fly to the location to start the investigate. They finally arrived at the location and met Captain Christopher Holmes, who served as a Special Operations Commando. Chris said if there is something that goes as far as 20 kilometers to the mountains in the south. The two grandparents were also questioned for what they witnessed. The husband said that the situation is suddenly got dark. It's like their house was covered in the shadow of moving mountain.
Jeg så det ikke så tydelig. Det var mørkt. Det var som vi lå I skuggen av fjellet, og så rørte fjellet på seg.
His wife was also very sure that she heard a roar.
Det var en ting, kanskje en slags uling.
After asking the grandparents, Nora checked the mark on the ground that were suspected of being footprints, using ultraviolet light, but there's no biological traces were found in the mark.
Ser du noe?
Bare jord og stein.
After doing some investigation, Nora, Andreas and Chris go to a mountainous area 20 kilometers to the south. Because that's where the last footprint stops. With the thermal scanning technology, Chris could find no signs of life. On Nora's opinion, because its gigantic figure could not just disappear. The creature could be a camouflage. Then Nora asked to be taken to a hut. The hut turned out is the home of her father. Tobias is a professor of native dialect and folklore.
Bare legg vekk hagla, pappa.
Liten.
Det bare pappaen hennes.
Inside the hut are many pictures of Troll and several articles about stoppage of construction of the railroad during World War II, because Nazi workers saw something on the mountain. After being shown the video, Tobias is very convinced that the creature was a troll. Where 1,000 years ago they roamed in Norway.
Troll.
Nora asked her father to think logically, and not to connect it with fairy tales. In Nora's opinion, if trolls really lived 1,000 years ago, they would have found the fossils.
Hadde de vært virkelige, så hadde vi hentet ut DNA-profiler fra trollfossiler for lenge siden.
Tobias says that either it's folklore, myths, or artwork about trolls, are made to cover up the truth about the troll. Tobias will prove if what he is researching is real.
Forteller du en løgn mange nok ganger, så blir det en vedtatt sannhet.
They finally returned to the last visible trail point, until finally, Tobias saw the rocks below and asked the helicopter to go down there immediately. On the rocks, Tobias also checked by trampling, kissing and eating the grass. Nora told Andreas and Chris that his father was indeed a bit eccentric and even made him lose his job and had time to enter a psychiatric clinic because he was considered crazy.
Jeg har det. Det tror jeg lurt.
Nora asked her father to stop hallucinating. Tobias said, he's not hallucinating, trolls are made of dirt and stone, so they became hard to trace. And when the weather there started cloudy, this has happened.
Pappa?
Chris? Start opp.
Dere må se det her.
When they arrived at the military camp, they held an online meeting with state officials. The Prime Minister handed over all operations to the military.
Ikke nevn ordet troll.
Troll! Det et troll! På en forskning.
Dette vi nødt til å overlate til Forsvaret.
Nora begged Chris to be allowed to go to the troll location for further observation. Fortunately, Chris was still kind enough to allow them.
Hvis den gjengen I Oslo får vet at jeg har tatt dere med.
Ta det helt med ro, det derfor sola står opp.
One battalion of soldiers was seen heading straight to the location. Tanks and other armed vehicles spread into their respective positions. The soldiers were also equipped with bazookas.
Vi live fra Heidal.
Mottatt.
Hva skjer nå? Vi venter.
Not long after, the troll appeared and walked closer to the troops.
Oslo, dette Viking. Avvente ordre.
The general immediately ordered his troops to attack. Then the bazooka was fired, but it had no effect to the troll. Troll tried to get closer in rage. Chris ordered the tank troops to shoot, but the shots also had no effect. Tobias tries to get closer with the troll and start a conversation. It turns out that this method can make troll more calm, but suddenly one of the tanks shoots from a distance and makes the troll angry and accidentally kicks Tobias away. After the incident, the trolls walked away from there. It's seen that Tobias smiled when he's dying. He feels satisfied because he could look directly at the troll's eyes. Before he died, Tobias told Nora something about the royal palace.
Slottet, kongen.
In her sorrow, Nora was still thinking about her father's last words, the royal palace, until she fell asleep in the room. The next morning, Chris reports that the troll has trace stopped in a valley, and an airstrike is about to be launched. Although the legend says that trolls cannot stand the sun, but it turns out wrong, because they clearly saw trolls awake in the daytime. When checking her father's notebooks, Nora found a photo of a church with a large rock in front of it. After seeing that, Nora immediately reported to the state officials that it is likely that trolls could not stand the noise. Ancient myths say that trolls once threw stones at church. Hearing Nora's opinion, one of state officials just laugh, because he think Nora's opinion unreasonable. But on other hand, Captain Chris supported Nora's opinion, because it has been proven that trolls can still stand even they attacked using modern weapons. After take a time for think, the Prime Minister finally agreed to do this unusual way. Sigrid traced the troll keep continues to make its way to the southeast, where it will soon come to a tourist spot in the Lillehammer. Meanwhile, the tourists who were on holiday there suddenly panicked, because there was a very great vibration, which indicates that the troll had arrived at that place. From a distance, it's seen 4 helicopters approaching the troll with bells. They also surrounding the troll while keep ringing the bells. And the method works, the troll is disturbed with a bell sound in his head. However, the trolls were still able to fight back. The helicopters were destroyed. And just when one of them was about to hit a child, the troll strangely helped save the child. There was only one helicopter left that was boarded by Nora, Andreas, and Chris, which immediately flew away from the troll. The existence of this giant creature quickly spread throughout the world. People started to worry, because the trolls kept walking towards the Norwegian capital, Oslo. Nora reported to Mrs. Minister if the sound of the bells affect the trolls. However, as the threat is getting closer, the Prime Minister ordered to mobilize all the fighting forces to fight it. Although Nora explains that they must find out what the troll wants, and why he continues walk. The minister's decision was unanimous. Nora was finally dismissed from the mission. And Chris apologized because he couldn't help her. Meanwhile, Andreas also resigned from his job, because as an advisor he felt his opinion was no longer valued. Andreas decided he would help Nora. After online meetings with other officials, the Prime Minister announced to all his people that the citizens of Oslo would be evacuated because a giant creature of unknown type was getting closer. For this reason, all elements of government, the armed forces and the best scientists have been mobilized to overcome this situation. The Prime Minister firmly declared a state of emergency and asked the people of Norway to protect each other. On the other hand, Andreas and Nora are still stuck in a traffic jam on a busy road. Nora continues to read her father's book, which has the word sinding written on one of the pages. Nora also remembered that her father often said that word, but she didn't know what it meant. Andreas said that the word sinding possibly meant as Richard Sinding, a senior official at the royal palace. Nora instantly remembered her father's words before he died about the royal palace. Nora asked Andreas to turn back to the royal palace in Oslo right away. When they got there, the guards immediately pointed their guns at them because the two of them forced their way in. Luckily, Sinding came to the gate, and when he saw Nora, without asking questions, they were immediately let in. It turns out that Richard Sinding knew Tobias well from a long time ago, but he was forced to go to jail for almost uncovering facts about a secret place. Then Nora and Andreas were taken to the secret place, where only a few people knew about the place. It turns out that the Norwegian royal palace was built on top of the Troll Kingdom. Sinding also told them that in a long time ago, the king of Norway named Saint Olaf destroyed all trolls during the Christianization of Norway because they were considered incompatible with this new religion. However, there was one troll child who was rescued and accidentally imprisoned in Mount Duver, and then left to die there. But it turns out that the troll's child is still alive today. Nora concludes that the reason why the troll keeps walking into the city because he wants to return to his kingdom. Until finally when Nora checked the bones there with ultraviolet, they saw bones that had turned to stone. The childhood tale was true, trolls could turn to stone when exposed to the sun. Nora also realized that the reason trolls could wake up during the day was because it was cloudy. Meanwhile on the city streets, the military troops immediately opened fire on the troll as approaching. But they were clearly no match for the trolls. The troll destroys them all and manages to break through the barricade. Because of what happened, the state officials were planned to use missiles to kill the trolls.
Gjør det som gjøres må. La oss utrydde den før den utrydder oss.
Andreas, who knows the news, asks Sigrid for help in hacking the plane system so that the missile can be cancelled. After that, Nora called Chris to tell her plans and asked him for help and to keep this a secret from the state officials. Chris knew it was impossible to deploy military people to help Nora. Finally he contacted his friends in the defense force to gather in a determined location.
Salam alaikum. Alaikum salam, brushan.
In other scene, Nora and Andreas borrowed a truck from the Queen of Norway, and carrying a large cargo in the back. They were both very worried, because if Sigrid's hack didn't work, it meant they would be killed by the missile. Meanwhile at the head office, Sigrid was trying in various ways to try to hack the system, and just as the missile was about to be fired, Sigrid finally succeeded in hacking the system.
System fail! System fail!
Not long after, the troll came. Nora bravely drove the truck towards to attract the attention of the troll.
Good.
It turned out that the large cargo behind the truck is the skull of the troll family. Seeing this, the troll became very angry.
Come on, come on, come on, come on!
But then, the straps on the back of the truck snapped, causing the skull to fall out. The troll took the skull of his family, and muttered to show his sadness. Then when he was looking in the mirror at the window of the building, the glass was accidentally broken. The troll was shocked, and accidentally lose grip to the skull. The skull fell into pieces. Seeing that, the troll immediately roared very loudly and then stared at Nora's car with hatred. Back at headquarters, Sigrid's attempt to hack the system was successfully tracked, the system was reactivated and the missile launch order was resumed. Meanwhile, Nora and Andreas had to get out of the car because the trolls managed to caught them. Luckily, Nora and Andreas had arrived at the determined location by Chris and his troops. The raging troll was about to step on Nora but Chris and his troop managed to distract the troll. The missile launch was cancelled by the general because there were many civilians there. One of the state officials who was still insisting that the missiles to be launched ended up getting a solid punch in the face. When Chris and the others cheered because they managed so the troll couldn't really move. Suddenly its painful roar heard. Nora took off all the ultraviolet power that was there immediately. Just like her father had done, this time Nora chatted with the trolls and asked them to return to the mountains immediately, because trolls never actually attack humans and instead humans are a threat to trolls. The troll who knew that Nora meant to save him was silent as if he understood the kindness of her heart, but unfortunately the sun began to rise which finally shone on the troll until he turned to stone. Even though she was devastated by the death of a troll, Nora had to let it go for the good of humanity. The Prime Minister and other state officials came to congratulate and thank Nora for her struggle.
Professor Friedman. Jeg vet ikke hva jeg skal si.
At the end of the film, Andreas asks Nora if maybe there are other trolls hiding in the hole, and Nora was silent.